Morning, good afternoon, everyone. Depends on where you're joining us from. It's great to see you all here today. Let's get another 30 seconds for the participants to log in. We would love to see where you're joining us from, so please type in your location in the comment section. Okay, welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn live session on leveraging AI for customer experience. We launched this series of conversations a few months back to bring on the ground perspectives in a more informal and interactive format. Today, we will explore some of the key questions that are on your mind. For example, topics around use cases, business impact, adoption practices, how do we scale, AI adoption for CX, challenges, risks, and more. We would love to hear your comments and questions as we go along. So please type in your questions in the comments, and we will try to address them during the discussion itself or during the Q&A towards the end. As a quick introduction, I'm Ashish Sehdev, Vice President with the Everest Group, and I lead our Asia Pacific business. I'm joined by my colleague Nisha Krishan, Practice Director with the Interactive Experience Practice, who also brings in a wealth of experience in this area. I'll let Nisha to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Good to be speaking to you all today. Thanks, Ashish, for the introduction.
Okay, before we start with CX, let's talk about, some of the research that we recently did. And we analyzed some 122 use cases across six industry segments in 2023. And what was interesting was that 57% of those use cases had a direct impact on customer experience. So from this analysis, it's pretty clear that AI has a significant impact on CX. But Nisha, tell us what are some of the areas of CX that AI is more likely to impact? What are we seeing on the ground from use cases perspective across functions?
Sure. Thanks, Ashish. I think when Ashish mentioned about the fact that when we talk about application of AI in the context of customer experience, the word customer experience is also viewed from different angles depending on your background and where you're coming from. But based on our conversations with a lot of these enterprises across different industries, what we have seen is that there are specific segments in which there are more investments happening and greater ROIs that enterprises are realizing versus some of the other segments. So I think one of the first segments we have seen is customer service, and within customer service, we have seen contact center operations to be an area where there are a lot of investments that enterprises are making. And the reason for that is that the plethora of use cases that AI is supporting within CCO is quite interesting, right? It is enabling voice biometrics. It is supporting human service by maintaining the context of the conversations that agents are having. It is also helping a lot in answering some of the routine queries independently without any human involvement. It is helping in intelligent routing of a lot of these queries depending on the nature of the query and which agent or department is best suited to answer those queries. And not only is it helping in routine tasks and driving efficiency within those tasks, but it is also helping organizations which are running this big or even small contact centers to define the metrics of success for these functions and for the agents, and for continuous monitoring of these metrics as well as monitoring of agent productivity. So those are some of the top use cases that we are seeing in the customer service. And I know, Ashish, as part of some of your recent conversations, you were talking to a few banks and the investments they're making in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, so for example, HSBC, and we know that they're using AI-powered chatbots, which are handling almost 80% of routine customer inquiries and reducing the interaction time by almost 40%. So we've seen traditionally a lot of investments and some good set of ROI. And with the advent of Gen AI, of course, the possibilities are endless. Drafting agent replies to autonomous note taking, adding context to conversations across multiple channels, etc. So customer service, of course, is a big area. What about marketing function as such, Misha? What are you seeing in marketing specific?
Yeah, that's an interesting area, Ashish, that you highlight. I think one point that I want to make within customer service before we move on to marketing function is within customer service, we talked about contact center operations, but the other higher area of investment that I think a lot of our audience today will agree with is the area of self-service as well. So a lot of times, while historically enterprises have continued to invest in chatbots, as part of your customer service on websites or on their mobile apps, etc. But today you talked about the advent of Gen AI. What is interesting is that these chatbots are becoming more intelligent and highly context driven. And that is not just helping you to automate very routine tasks of customer self-service, but it is also helping you to, using AI in order to answer some of the higher level tasks slash functions that traditionally did not come under the ambit of normal machine learning algorithms. So I think within customer service, contact center operations and investments in chatbots remain high based on our conversations with enterprises. Now, marketing function is very interesting because marketing as a domain itself is so vast. But if we were to
Right.
talk about the use cases where we have seen maximum adoption, has to do with customer segmentation and targeting. Now, marketing function has always been doing customer segmentation. So, what's new with AI? What's new with Gen AI is that it helps you make sense of a plethora of data, whether online or offline or distributed across number of channels, whether internal to the company or external to the company, to really make a true customer 360 and understand your customers much better than what it was traditionally possible, um, with the normal predictive analytics, etc. So customer segmentation and targeting remains a very important use case that enterprises are investing in. Marketing automation, I mean, that's one function which has been being automated for quite a few years, but with AI and especially with the advent of generative AI, companies are talking about and investing in use cases such as what kind of content do I need to build, how do I distribute this content. There are a plethora of channels today. Ashish, you and I keep talking about some of these enterprises which are just struggling in terms of prioritizing their investments in channels. So
Yep.
what kind of content to make, how to distribute that content, which channel makes more sense for me compared to the other, where do I place my ads? Those questions which marketing function has always traditionally asked, is a function where AI is helping a lot with data driven decision making. So those are some of the areas we are seeing. The second area we are seeing
Yeah.
is personalized marketing campaigns, right? Now, what is interesting about personalization is that since I have been working for the past 10-15 years, we've always talked about personalization. But now, when we talk about personalization, we talk about one on one personalization. I, as an enterprise, want to personalize my message um, to one particular customer, and I have a plethora of customers. There aren't enough humans on the planet to drive that kind of personalization. So, what AI is doing in the era of personalization is that it is helping enterprises create content that is personalized to the audience, which was not possible earlier. And it is also helping in building customer 360 in a way that was not possible earlier as well. So, personalized marketing campaign is another area within the marketing function where we are seeing a lot of adoption. Ashish, I know you and I have been talking a lot about these
Yep.
virtual agents. We've been talking a lot about avatars, etc. Do you want to quickly speak about how the marketing function across organizations is using avatars, etc., in order to make this real?
Yeah, I think different brands are using leveraging avatars in different way. I'm here reminded of one of the ads I'd seen, the Serena Williams Nike campaign, right? Never done evolving, where by analyzing Serena's performance over the years to understand her form, her play, factors that led her to being the top 20 or the top performer for almost 20 years. They created an avatar which is now being used to improve techniques of young athletes and also inform products, technology, and all kind of stuff. So those who haven't seen this, the campaign must have a look. Never done evolving by Nike. It's terrific.
Yeah. It's actually quite terrific, Ashish, now that you mention it, because you mentioned that to be at the top of the game for 20 years takes something. And to analyze that 20 years of data in order to inform young athletes also takes a lot of years. But AI has actually reduced that time from probably years to just a few months, so that all the data that resides not just with Serena Williams, the forms of multiple athletes can be used to inform the product strategy within
Right.
organizations, can be used to inform, not just to can be used to train young athletes as well. In fact, as you spoke about this, I was recently reminded of my conversation with an IT service provider, and I don't think, I think most of the audience would know them, but Rafael Nadal is their brand ambassador. And I was looking at some of the marketing campaigns that the firm was developing, and they looked so real and they looked so interesting. And when I learned about the technique behind how that content was generated, it was actually all
Yeah.
AI. They had used the
Yep.
brand ambassador image in order to create younger versions of Rafael Nadal, in order to create the older versions, the present version, etc., and the younger version playing with the older version, etc. So all of that was possible with AI. Now, one might, and the audience might say that, hey, by the way, how does that impact customer experience? It does, because you are leveraging AI in order to uh, develop brand ambassadors and their image to forward your brand within the ecosystem.
Yep.
And that's very close to the heart of, I think, any marketing function.
Yeah, totally. And I think you talked about we talked about the marketing function as such, also customer service as such. But you did mention about AI informing products, and we do see a lot of examples of products and services itself being impacted by the development of products itself being impacted by AI. So, can you give some examples on how you're seeing some on the ground use cases from product innovation perspective?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's interesting, Ashish, because what has happened over the past few years is that while I've continued to engage with a lot of business leaders as part of my role, but interestingly and recently, I've also started to engage with a lot of product managers slash leaders, and I did not expect questions around AI or deep questions around AI from them. And what I see them now doing is, how do I leverage this technology in order to continuously innovate, in order to continuously strike this competitive advantage, etc., in the market? So, a product function is curious about it and wants to leverage it. And one of the ways that we are seeing, and again, I'm probably biased towards Nike, but this is another Nike example wherein and Nike and some of their other key competitors as well, right? Where you go to a store and they are using artificial intelligence in order to not just determine your foot size, but to determine the pressure points, to determine your running style, and based on that, what is the perfect shoe for you. But that's not where it ends, because that's what you see in a store in terms of how AI is being leveraged. But that knowledge about the different running styles, about the foot size, about the different pressure points, etc., depending on the audience and the demographics, etc., all goes back to Nike in order to inform their next release and product strategy and get feed into this product enhancement life cycle. So I
Yep.
think net of it, in the product function, there are quite a few use cases that enterprises are investing in. And most importantly, it is helping them to continuously innovate depending on what their customers are asking for.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm yet to try that, by the way. Haven't yet tried, but would love to. I always keep wondering what shoe to buy because there are different ones for running, for playing tennis, and probably I'll end up buying many. So maybe this would be worth trying to see if I could optimize on my number of shoes. But anyways, coming back to the functions, Nisha, talk about sales, right? Yeah, sales again. There's a whole set of AI use cases around how do we look at sales from, again, customer segments to conversational AI to helping customers self-serve and so on and so forth. So, what are you seeing some of the recent use cases around sales?
See, sales as a function. See, some of the typical use cases would be around lead generation, would be around understanding the performance, etc. That I'll not go into because that's traditionally been the case. But what we are seeing right now is that this technology of AI and immersive experiences is being used both online and offline in order to generate more sales for the organization. Ashish, you may not have visited this store, but Sephora is one of the big makeup brands aggregator, and I happen to visit their store often. And I've seen that they use AI within the store in order to analyze your skin tone, in order to analyze specific parameters pertaining to your contours of your face and your skin, etc., in order to determine the suitable products for you. So while that may not be a completely sales function, but AI is enabling you to attract more customers, which is more of a marketing thing, and at the end of the day, to generate more sales within the organization. So that's happening as well. But before I think Ashish and I move on, because we can continue to talk about AI, uh,
Yep.
the audience can keep the questions coming. So if any of this resonates with you, are you seeing something similar? Do you think there are specific aspects of customer experience that you are responsible for and we may not have touched upon? Please feel free to drop in your questions as well.
Yeah, great. Nisha, so we talked about some of these use cases across functions. I'm curious to see, and we've heard some examples of the business impact that these use cases have created. But as we analyze a lot of data coming from these use cases across different industries, how would you characterize the business impact? How does one measure the business impact? What are some of those big buckets where you would categorize the business impact, because that's very important for scaling the adoption, right? And enterprises need to see the
Yeah.
impact that it's creating, and then kind of keep building the business cases, right?
Yeah, yeah. See, Ashish, when you ask me that question, I think I, as a person, I'm very positive and excited about the adoption of AI across functions. And we will talk about the future of AI when later in the conversation. But when you talk about the impact, about the outcomes, the word that comes to my mind is magic. And the reason I use the word magic is because I think the M within magic starts for, will probably refer to meaningful personalization. So, as I said, personalization is one benefit within the customer experience ecosystem that AI is really enabling. And the equation I like to use for personalization is data plus content is equal to personalization. You cannot
Organization, yeah.
personalize any product or service for me unless you understand me. And understanding means customer 360. Customer 360 means what am I doing online, offline, across a variety of channels, websites, places that I visit, right? So, but when I say meaningful personalization, AI is helping companies to understand customers very well, which is data. The other part of the equation is content. Understanding me is fine, but you need the right kind of content to be able to get my attention to your brand. So what kind of, so AI is helping with content generation and creative workflows, etc., as well, which is equal to personalization now. So the M in magic starts for stands for meaningful personalization. The second thing is accelerated insights. Gone are the days when if I wanted data about my sales function or marketing function or some other function within the organization, I had to raise a request to the analytics team and the business analyst would get back to me with the report. Those days are gone. Now accelerated insights means that the business people should be empowered enough with AI to be able to get insights into what is happening in the business and to be able to
Right.
take action upon it, because in this competitive environment you cannot wait for a day or two to kind of know that what is going on with the business. So accelerated insights and power in the hands of the business users is this the A in magic. The G in magic is greater efficiency. We've always been doing the work we've been doing for quite a few years, but now we do it more efficiently, more accurately, etc. That is because of AI. The I in magic stands for innovative interaction. What were our interactions with the brands a couple of years back? What are our interactions with the brand today across so many channels, through virtual agents, through chatbots, through human led interventions, through conversational AI, etc. So, innovative interaction is another outcome that AI is delivering. And last but not the least, which is more of an outcome, is customer satisfaction boost. If you were to strategize your AI in a way that it is delivering meaningful outcomes for your customers, it will eventually lead to customer satisfaction boost. So, in a nutshell, meaningful
Hmm.
personalization, accelerated insights, greater efficiency, innovative interaction, and customer satisfaction boost are some of the outcomes that I am seeing by adoption of AI in the CX function.
Yeah, I love magic. Magic indeed. Oh, so terrific acronym, Nisha. It helps me remember. But a lot of these things that we talked about are all about efficiency, right? So helping to do the tasks that a process or an organization is doing more efficiently, more accurately, greater productivity, speed, some of those levers, right? What are we seeing on the ground? Some of the examples of unlocking revenue opportunities, because I think that's been one of the things that we talk about, right? Even around Gen AI, a lot of use cases around productivity and cost and efficiency, but probably remains to be seen what can be done on the revenue side. There are some use cases, of course, but still very early stage in terms of scaling up. So what do you see on the revenue side of the story?
Yeah, so see on the so that's interesting because whatever outcomes I was talking about earlier were the outcomes pertaining to the functions that we've always been doing. But what enterprises are yet to understand and possibly action upon is that AI is not just about increased efficiency, effectiveness, interaction, experience, but it is also about
Hmm.
unlocking newer revenue streams, Ashish. So some of the areas where I am seeing, and these are some interesting, uh, a little bit futuristic use cases, hopefully for our audience to worth understanding. Uh, Influencer marketing became very important in the recent years. But what I
Hmm.
have also seen with some enterprises is that there is this fatigue of engaging with the influencers. For whatever reason, I'll not go into it. So what I have seen is
Yep.
some enterprises and companies investing in just generating just opening an account on Instagram, etc., of an AI generated person, and the objective is
Hmm.
for that person to become an influencer. And you and I, when we
Yep.
go to these profiles, you and I will not even know that these are not human beings. We will think that they are some high end sports professionals or some models, etc.
Yep.
So some of the ways in which enterprises have explored is that they've opened these Instagram pages of these avatars, and these avatars now have millions of followers, and now other brands want to use these virtual avatars as possible influencers. So this is how AI is kind of unlocking newer revenue opportunities. This did not exist, right? It just wasn't possible to have a artificial human being looking like a real human being and generating money for you, but that is happening today. So those are some of the
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
we are seeing. And Ashish, I'll take a pause
Yes.
here because I see that there is a question from one of our audience. And their question, interestingly, is that while we are talking about customer experience only, but what about employee experience and learning? What are some of the use cases and our thoughts around the future of AI in this segment? So I'll probably share my thoughts, and then Ashish, please feel free to add on to this. Um,
Yep.
so essentially, for this question, right? So as during COVID, as you rightly mentioned, that the focus on employee experience increased a lot, and at that time, the focus on employee experience was largely to do with enabling collaboration in a hybrid working environment, and that's where so A, enabling collaboration, and B, productivity. Those were the two areas where AI was being used. There were a lot of investments by Microsoft. There were a lot of investments in AI tools that helped you define and measure productivity of people as they move towards hybrid working environments. But now, as we stand today in the HR domain, what we are seeing is AI enabled learning journeys, and this especially became very important after the great resignation wave that we talked about. So AI is helping in learning journeys, especially crafting personalized learning journeys. AI is helping employees to know their own productivity levels and performance, and to be able to give them recommendations with respect to what are the next steps, etc., that they need to take or talk about to their managers. Those are the second areas. Those are some of the other areas where we are seeing investments happening. Ashish, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I think you covered the key ones, Nisha. But I think if you look at from an HR perspective, of course, across the HR value chain, right, how you attract talent, deploy talent, retain, yeah, enable,
Yeah.
and exit. I think across the value chain, plenty of examples, platforms that are using now embedded AI. Of course, we are seeing that these are some of the siloed use cases. So how do you improve your efficiency of interviewing, for example. AI bot throwing coding questions to ensure consistency across questions, as well as analyzing responses real time, looking at body languages and so on and so forth, creating a trust score, for example. Similarly, from a learning standpoint, really understanding competencies on the job, and again platforms that kind of help in identifying specific gaps and then creating automatically creating the content that you should be looking at. So plenty of examples. I think still a lot more can happen, and but I think definitely it's a big space of or a use case of AI and generative AI in specific as well.
Yeah. And I think one important point to highlight, Ashish, over here is that, uh, and the person who's raised this question here from the HR domain, so you'll probably understand this a bit better, is this is one area where we are seeing that responsible adoption of AI becomes extremely important. Not that others are not important, but here we have seen a lot of failures across a number of bigger and small organizations without naming them. So, one of the key use cases is using AI for resume screening across different roles. And trust me when I say this, in a number of conversations, we've come across enterprises who've done it wrong. And when I say wrong, a lot of times when these AI tools are used for resume screening for jobs which are more like leadership roles oriented, it just automatically weeds out female resumes. And the reason has nothing to do with AI as a technology being wrong, but it has to do with the fact that the data on which they need to be trained needs to be unbiased. And the data was biased and has been biased in a number of cases. So you might want to think about that as you train your AI models, not just in the employee experience or HR space, but how do you make them more responsible? There is another question on we talked about employee experience, but what are some of
Yep.
the things that are happening on shop floor operations? Ashish, from my experience, I can speak about I think largely inventory management, and I think machine maintenance is where I have seen a number of use cases on shop floor. But I'd be curious to know if you have anything to add to this.
Yeah, so I think robotics and automation, I think with this whole advent of Industry 4.0, you see, the machines are getting smarter, the systems are getting smarter. So a lot of data that is getting collected, and then how do you look at surveillance, safety, environmental and safety control, some of these solutions around, designing more ergonomic solutions itself using the data. Then you can model those using AI, some of those things, of course, and then looking at production scheduling. So right from your inventory, connecting that with your production, the supply chain of raw materials, etc. A lot of that can be automated and with embedded AI. So I think there is absolutely a lot of use cases on the shop floor as well. We have some reports. Maybe I can share something more specific. If you can just drop me a note, Checker. Would love to interact further on this.
Yeah. Great. I think Ashish, let's continue with the discussion given that we've covered the questions. I think what we
Yeah.
were talking about, yeah, go ahead, please, Ashish.
So we were just talking about some of these business impacts that we created or that you're seeing from an AI standpoint. What I would be curious to understand is around specific around Gen AI, right? Now, a lot of these AI use cases are not new. Some of them are going on for last 2 3 years. We've seen conversational AI and many other use cases of AI over the last 2 to 3 years as such. But what has changed with over the last 6 to 12 months with specific reference to Gen AI? Is it a
Yeah.
step change you're seeing? Is it some additional use cases? What's going on specific to Gen AI over the last 6 to 12 months?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thanks for that, Ashish. I think the use cases we were referring to, we did talk about Gen AI in bits and pieces. But if you were to really draw a line between AI before Gen AI and then AI now with
Hmm.
Gen AI,
Hmm.
an oversimplified statement would be that traditionally when we were using machine learning algorithms and everything that existed in AI before Gen AI kind of democratized access to AI, had to do with the fact that AI will help us automate a lot of functions in a more intelligent manner. So it will bring in aspects of human intelligence in existing ways of automating processes, so that we can do it better, so that we can continue to upskill people. Human beings can take up higher order tasks, etc. That was the idea, and that's still the idea, by the way. The second thing was that while AI can do all of that, AI can never enter the realm of human creativity. Creativity as a domain will only reside with human beings. And what Gen AI did, that it broke the latter conviction that we had, that creativity would lie in the, under the human dominance. Because as the word implies, generative AI, it is able to generate content. Now, whether that content is text, whether it is audio, whether it is video, whether it is images, whether it is code, or whether it is data, all those things we need a 2 3 more LinkedIn lives on. But in a
Yep.
nutshell, what it is doing in the customer experience space is that because it is helping you generate content, it is helping you generate UI designs, it is helping the UI UX designers to overcome this creative block, and to be able to come up with a lot of examples of how design needs to take place. It is helping with the generation of advertisements, both video and those static advertisements as well, through image generation, through video generation, through 3D models. It is helping sales and marketing teams with sales and marketing content as well, how to write emails effectively, having more intelligent AI assistants. It is helping with audio and speech generation as well, with respect to voice synthesis and dubbing, with respect to audio generation. And if you combine all of that, right, image, audio, video, text, etc., it just makes a beautiful use cases for automating a lot of creative led use cases in the customer experience space. And forget about creative led use cases, even increasing developer productivity, right? Code generation, code completion, debugging, refactoring, etc. Those are some of the use cases that AI is catering to as well. So that's the difference. It's a long answer, but that's the difference, right? It's about generating and creating content across a number of areas. Now, how marketing and experience leaders want to use it is depends really on their domain and function.
Yeah, and we are seeing a lot of generative AI platforms, multimodal Gen AI platforms for the enterprise, and I think some of them which are more niche and playing in certain verticals, we are seeing a lot of traction in those more than some of the horizontal ones going forward. A lot of investments also going into that space as we speak. So we talked about Nisha. We talked about some of the use cases, functions, business impact. How do you characterize that? And we do see a lot of pilots and a lot of enterprises experimenting in silos in certain process, certain functions, certain use case. So a lot of that pilot and experimentation going on. But there are enterprises who've also started adopting it as scale, right? So, what do you see as a roadmap for scaled adoption? Because this has to scale if it really
Yeah,
creates a large business impact, right? So, what are
yeah.
some of the things that you're seeing from a scaling perspective?
Yeah. And Ashish, I'm sorry, before I answer that question, I quickly want to remind our audience that we have that you're attending this session, so you will have access, complimentary access to our report on generative AI. The title of the report is Generative AI Revolutionizing the Creative Design and Development Process. So, everything that Ashish and I spoke about generative AI, you'll find mention of that in the report. So, please feel free to download that as well. Now, coming back to the question, Ashish, that you had raised, right? So, as we both were speaking about it, we both were presenting a very positive and optimistic picture of AI. We did speak about some of the failures in the employee experience space as well. And I want to continue to be optimistic about the space, because I do believe that this space is not like the metaverse where it came and it kind of, we don't know where it is now. This area has the potential to really change the ways we work and interact with brands today. But having said that, and Ashish, you were speaking about some analysis that we had done last year when on the use cases, etc. The other analysis
Right.
that we had done was on generative AI. So we actually analyzed all the use cases that enterprises were investing in generative AI. I think there were about 232 of them. And what was interesting is that more than 85% of the use cases did not achieve were just stuck at the POC stage. They did not, they did
Hmm.
not fail at all. And therefore, as we speak about the optimism surrounding this space, we need to speak about what does it take for a use case to scale? What does it take for an enterprise to become truly an intelligent enterprise? Sure, it will not happen in the next 6 months, but that's the world that we are moving towards. And therefore, to know the process that you need to adopt to get there becomes very important, right? Now, as Ashish asked that question, I'm sure some of you were thinking about, oh, now, Ashish and I will go into talking about tech, but that's not the case. Because if you were to scale your AI investments in the customer experience or any space for that matter, you first need to think about your business strategy. As an organization, what is your strategy? What is your ambition? Where are you moving towards? How does that find expression in the customer experience space? And once you've answered that question for yourself, you cannot start with a big bang approach. Let me just take up these. I'm super excited. I've attended this webinar. Let me just take up 20 use cases and see what we can do about it. That's not how it will work, because you will need to based on the business strategy and business need, you will need to prioritize the use cases that are utmost important to you. And when I say important, it means it will depend on the business need, it will depend on the level of investments needed, it will depend on the likely ROI that you're expected to get, and it will also depend on the impact that it is likely to create on your customer experience operations and the timeline. Like, is it going to be like a 2 year 3 year endeavor, is it going to be like a 3 4 months endeavor, etc. All of those
Yeah.
questions need to be answered. So, tying your investments to overall business strategy and then identifying the use case becomes extremely important. Otherwise, you're going down the wrong lane. Otherwise, you're just
Right.
experiment and going after the next shiniest object. So that's of utmost importance. After that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
done,
And
yeah, go ahead, Ashish.
yeah, no, so go ahead. I just thought I'll talk about, most consulting firms and analysts have frameworks, right, around adoption or tech adoption. And some of those kind of remain the same. But again, you now have, from an AI perspective, some of those frameworks we've tweaked. So we will probably maybe share at some point of time some of the frameworks that we have that we are seeing enterprises leveraging to think about adoption of tech, specifically Gen AI and AI at scale. But Nisha, let's talk about some of those key elements around the framework, and
Yeah.
just broadly, what should people be thinking about?
Yeah, as Ashish said, like no conversation is complete without a framework. We introduced quite a few. Let's introduce another. But I think this one is very important because this will put a lot of things in perspective. So, one interesting thing is once the business case is made, and most importantly, you have the stakeholder buy in. And remember, the word stakeholder buy in also needs to be understood in deeper context because stakeholder buy-in would not just mean the CMO or the CIO of the organization because it is customer experience, but it will have a lot to do with your business leaders. And in a lot of organizations, AI has become a boardroom agenda. So your CEO will possibly would want to get involved as well. So that's what I mean by stakeholder buy-in and the business case. But coming back to the framework that Ashish mentioned, I think the first thing you need to think about is technology, where your infrastructure comes into picture, which needs to be secure, accessible, scalable, extensible. Your data foundation is very important. And the reason I'm stressing so much on data foundation is because we see a lot of failures because of the data estate. And we also see that some of the shiny eyed enterprises and stakeholders who want to do everything with respect to AI find themselves in a very humbled state when they see that the data estate of the organization is not mature enough to support their AI ambitions. So, before you embark on that journey, do look at your infrastructure, do look at your data. That's the basic AI foundation from a technology perspective. You need to operationalize AI by adoption of relevant platforms, solutions, techniques, etc., which we will not go into the details of, and then innovate within the technology domain as well. For the use case that you are taking up, is hybrid AI more suited? Or you want to talk about sustainability in AI, you want to talk about distributed AI, etc. So, from a tech perspective, in a nutshell, you need to have a very strong foundation of infrastructure and data. At the same time, the relevant platforms and solutions to support the use case. The other things, right? It's not just about tech, it is also about people. And
Yep.
I love to say this, that it is not about bringing technology to people, it is also about bringing people closer to technology. My organization today might implement an AI solution that they might think it's jazzy and nice and will help me. But unless I am not trained to use it, it is the relevant change management has not been done for me. I will hardly use it because I'm so used to my older ways of working that change is difficult. Change for anybody is difficult. So when you are adopting AI within the organization, the people aspect with respect to data literacy and AI literacy and change management becomes important. And then, of course, the talent that is needed in order to, you know, the talent that is needed in order to operationalize AI use cases becomes important. Tech and people are not the only two pillars. The third pillar is processes. AI, adoption of AI in a function and across functions and scaling that is about reimagining functions as well, reimagining the operating model, reimagining in certain cases organization structure as well. So, have you thought about the process change in addition to the people and the technology change? Those are the things that will also become important as you scale your journey.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, just from a sales standpoint, I think there is we can already see a lot of organizations rethinking about how do they structure the sales organization, right? Because a lot of stuff that, from a campaign perspective, inside sales, you have BDRs, SDRs, you have field sales. So how is that going to kind of converge, and what could be the new model design for the sales org, leveraging AI and systems and platforms at different places. So again, an evolving conversation, lots of interesting stuff. We are investigating that and across different functions as we speak. But Nisha, one of the conversations that comes across whenever we talk about deploying AI and Gen AI is around trust, right? Trust
Yeah.
around the data, the models, the biases, and there are regulations and compliances. So how does one really think about AI being responsible? And responsibility is again
Yeah.
a big piece of research that we guys do. But talk about what are some of the things that one should be thinking about as you're building these AI systems?
Yeah, yeah, no, thanks for that, Ashish, because I think it ties back to the question that Kavita had also asked earlier, right, about the employee experience, etc. And we talked about some of the failures in this space as well. But essentially, a couple of years back when we talked about responsible AI, it was largely I remember back in the day, 2008, 18, we were working with a couple of startups who were talking a lot about transparency, etc., and bringing in solutions in this space. But
Hmm.
essentially, during that time, 2017, 18, when we used to talk about responsible AI, it was always about explainability. When, in a nutshell, and I think in layman's terms, what explainability means is that the black box of AI should not be the black box of AI. What it means is that if an AI system, let's say, is being used to screen resumes, it takes an input, it throws out an output, but it never tells you on what basis it has thrown that output. So, Ashish, if I were to ask you a question that on what basis are you seeing this candidate needs to be selected, you have an answer to that question based on the interview process that has been done. AI does not have, it doesn't explain itself, right? So, when we talk about the key tenets of responsible adoption of AI, one of the important tenets, which has been the case traditionally, is explainability, which means accountability, which means traceability, which means repeatability and transparency. I should be able to trace back that why this output was given to me, what were the parameters that AI model used in order to give that output. So explainability becomes important. Security becomes important. Is it, I mean, every now and then we keep hearing about AI regulations, about what EU is doing, what Biden, etc., all these people are doing with respect to coming up with the regulatory framework for adoption of AI, because there is a genuine fear in the market with respect to what it will do to the jobs, etc. So you have to ensure that it is secure, it is governed, it is compliant, it is reliable, and it is private. And last but not the least, it is ethical. When we say ethical, it is unbiased. Even human beings are not unbiased. We work on our own mental makeup and what we have seen in the past. But whenever we are building, at least that biases, because we are aware of it, we can to some extent take care of it. But then when bias comes in a technology system which cannot explain itself, it can really snowball into something really big for any enterprise, having legal repercussions sometimes. So it should be unbiased, it should be inclusive, and it should be justifiable. So those are the ways in which we possibly think about adoption of responsible AI. It's explainable, it is secure, and it is ethical.
Right. No, excellent, Nisha. That's great. I think we covered a lot of points. If there are more questions, probably we are almost getting to the top of the hour. But great conversation, Nisha. Yeah. Any closing remarks you may want to talk about that I missed asking, maybe, or something that you would want to tell our audience as
Yeah.
what as you're researching new topics or some of the new pieces of research that are upcoming in the next few months?
Yeah, there are actually quite a few research pieces that are upcoming. We are very closely talking to a lot of startups in the space, especially what is happening in Gen AI, closely in touch with the enterprises use cases as well. So you should tune into some of our research as well as it gets published in the next few months. But I think what I want to wrap up this conversation with is that what does the future hold, right? Today we are
Hmm.
talking about so many use cases. We are talking about what businesses need to do, stakeholder buy-in, etc., and the framework around technology, process, people, and governance. But Ashish, I will probably throw that question to you first, right? When you reflect on the conversation we've had, when you reflect on all the questions that have come our way, what do you think the future holds? And future, I don't mean like next 1 or 2 years, but when AI becomes pervasive, what does it mean for us as a society and us as professionals?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on, so would be hard to put it in just one line. But I do believe that AI will be all pervasive, right? All the systems around us will all be intelligent. So there would be embedded intelligence or all pervasive AI is what I can think of. We would not see hey, whether this is AI or this is not AI, but I think most systems would have AI embedded, and I think that's the world that we're gonna be in. Also, where humans and bots coexist. Definitely a lot of conversations around that. Still early days, but we can always see so many instances and places where bots are now very effective in doing some of the mundane tasks, and that will evolve as more and more intelligence gets baked into. So yeah, how about you, Nisha? What do you think? What's your one liner?
No, I think so that's interesting that sorry, I'm just hearing my echo. But anyway, yeah, the pervasiveness and the embedded intelligence, I completely agree with that it will almost come embedded with the all the platforms, the apps that we're using. So there'll be no conversation like, oh, I'm using AI system now and I'm not. But what also stands out for me is democratized access to intelligence. And what I mean by that is, and again, it's hard to say it in one line, but before Chat GPT, not everybody knew about AI. It was a conversation which was limited to professionals, consultants, analysts, enterprises who were adopting it. After Chat GPT, I was the college students, the school student, everybody, like anybody who had access to the internet could possibly use AI in order to do even the most mundane of the tasks and writing articles, etc. What does it mean? It means democratizing access to intelligence, which has never happened in the past. And I think it will continue to happen. It will continue to redefine our jobs, the traditional roles, the new roles that will get created in a way that we still can't wrap our heads around. But possibly democratization of intelligence is what I would want to wrap up this conversation with.
Yeah, on a funny note, I saw this. I think it was one of the clips in, I don't know, Insta or probably YouTube, and so it talked. It was a joke, but basically it talked about that. Hey, I want AI to do my household chores, and so that I can make time to do more creative and artistic stuff, and not the other way around. So, so with that, I hope AI could do both, and probably we could enjoy other things. But with that, Nisha, thank you so much for this wonderful
Thank you.
conversation. I think I learned a lot. I'm sure our audience also got some insights. Audience, please don't forget to download the report we talked about on generative AI. And if you still have any questions, do feel free to reach out to us. We would be happy to address it one on one. But a great conversation, Nisha, again, and we'll be back with more such interactive conversations to talk about some of the evolving theses that we are seeing as we do more research. So, thank you once again. Thank you, audience, for being patient listeners, and have a great rest of the day.
Sure.